how can we inspire ourselves to move more? And this is something I want to continue on from a previous video that I did where I talked about to inspire movement, sometimes we need to set up your habitat and your environment to provide or allow for more movement. And today I want to get to something a little bit more that I think we can expand upon from that last video, is the idea of what makes movement itself appealing. And part of it is the idea of play. And so people sometimes ask me, like, why do I use the word play so much rather than, let's say, for example, work? And I want to do a little experiment here. So if we were to just close our eyes for a moment and imagine something that you have to do. Imagine like a chore or something that you don't really feel inspired to do. So maybe that's taking out the garbage, maybe that's doing your taxes, whatever it is. Going to a work meeting, something that just feels like it's really you'd rather be doing something else. And if you can close your eyes and visualize that situation, that activity, and ask yourself and search into your body and ask, how do I feel? Now, what is it that's going on in my body? Is there a sense of tension or restriction? What is your energy level like? Do you feel like you have high anxious energy, or are you low and lethargic? And if you get a sense of what's going on there in your body and in your thoughts, then switch the visualization and now think about something that you really enjoy doing. Think about something in which you're playing, a game, maybe it's being with a loved one or friends, maybe it's being in nature, maybe it's being on vacation or a sport. And if you think about that thing that really brings, that you really enjoy doing, ask yourself the same questions. How do I feel? What's happening in my body? Where's the tension? Is there a absence of tension? Where's my energy level? And if you can get a sense of those two things, you really start to get a sense of why I'm using this word play, because this difference between something that we are really opposed to doing versus something that we enjoy and look forward to doing are like little trim tabs. And trim tabs are like these tiny rudders on a huge boat. And there's such a small little shift when you turn the steering wheel, just these tiny little rudders will turn, and it won't make any perceivable shift right away, but over like 1,000 miles, the boat's going to go way in a different course. And so if we are dealing with our body and if we're dealing with movement, how we feel in that movement is going to course change, for the rest of our lives. So it's an idea about association. And the feelings that we associate with movement or associate with anything that we do, it becomes habit and it becomes more and more ingrained. So I had a music teacher once who said that practice does not make perfect. What practice makes is habit. And so you can practice something in a poor way that's bad for you, or maybe it's just bad technique musically or something, and that's what you end up practicing, is that thing that's either detrimental to yourself or your technique or your success, etc. But if you practice good habits, if you practice something that's good for you, you go the other direction. So this stress level, whether you're stressed when you're moving or whether you feel content and relaxed and joyful, they bring you in two completely different ways. So, you might want to think about it like then, well, how then do I get to enjoy the movement that I do? And here's another concept that it's a little shift from what a lot of people do when they exercise. When they exercise, they feel like they have to punish themselves. They have to beat themselves up and really push hard to feel sore and to get a sense of accomplishment. Now the problem is that oftentimes correlates with like high levels of stress. And so you start to bring the association in that you're always, that exercise and movement is stressful and it hurts. And over time, you're going to start to have an aversion to exercise. Whereas if you are able to find a way to play and to do things that bring you joy and excitement and giddiness and where you're really looking forward to it, you're going to start to develop the association to go towards that thing and to do more of it. So think of your body a little bit like an animal, and which it is, because we are all animals. And people have discovered over time that if you're trying to train an animal to get it to do something, positive reinforcement works much better and much quicker than punishment and negative reinforcement. And so find ways to move in which you are enjoying it. And that might be the trick. Maybe you're like, I don't know how to do it. And so this is what I do, is I break things down into smaller pieces until it's not overwhelming and it can be enjoyable. Think of it like you're trying to befriend this animal of our body. Mary Oliver has a quote in one of her poems of the soft animal of our bodies and letting it do what it loves. And I think that's how we need to start to treat ourselves. So there's another story from the Saint Exupéry's The Little Prince, where he tames a fox, and it's by small increments. Day by day, he just gets closer and closer to the fox until they become friends. Which is what I think we need to do in order to fall in love with movement. So what I would do is find the small movements and only do that much that you can do where it's pleasurable and enjoyable. Another guy I know, his name is, he's known as Barefoot Ted. He's made famous from the book Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. And Barefoot Ted says, at a talk I once saw him, he said he's no longer interested in testing the limits of what's possible. He's now more concerned with testing the limits of what's pleasurable. And I think that's exactly on the right track. So if you are already not finding movement very pleasurable, that's one thing. Break it down, make it smaller into the smallest, easiest amount that you can do, and really practice that or do that consistently. Now, number two is to reframe movement into a sense of play and exploration and curiosity. And so how do you do that? And one is, if you already know that there are things you enjoy doing, focus on doing those more, whether that's gardening or hiking or playing a sport or games. Just reinforce how much it's enjoyable to do it. The second thing, another thing you can do, and this is what I do a lot in classes and also in my own life, is I find the small movements. Let's say, for example, I just play with balance, and I will stand on one leg wherever I am. Maybe I'm waiting at the subway, or maybe I'm in the grocery store, or I could be home alone. But I stand on one leg, and I just become curious about this animal of a body and go, how is this working? I don't mean in a scientific way, but just, I can ask, like, where's my weight? And what am I feeling here? What muscles am I using? Could I make little shifts? How long can I hold this balance? And it's all a game. And then you can play with, like, well, what happens if I throw myself off balance? How can I keep it? Hardest one for me is to close your eyes. But it's that sense that it's no longer work. It is play. I'm experimenting and being curious, and I'm finding variations to play with all the time. So take that into whatever you need to do to bring yourself into a healthier movement lifestyle. Take it easy on yourself. Try to do it slow or do smaller motions. Do only what's pleasurable to you, and really explore the sensation of play and curiosity. And so I hope you have fun playing with that, and I will see you next time. Thanks.